Welcome back to Two Cats Writing. I'm MJ.
Oh, Katrina, i- great to have you back.
We are up so early in the morning to record this for you today. And I don't know why we decided that talking about craft at amazing o'clock in the morning was the best idea, but we did, and so here we are.
And
And
we can both assure you it's going to be an entertaining, informative, entertaining podcast.
probably entertaining at the very least, but hopefully also informative.
Yes.
Um, Since we want to talk about both business and craft over the course of this series, we decided to do a craft episode, and I'm interested to see because I feel like out of all the things that we're doing, craft should be the place where we have like the least amount of discrepancy between like how does a indie writer do this and how does a traditionally published author do this. But I wonder if we're going to end up being surprised about how our paths influenced even just the way that we put together a story now. But I'm so curious. So Katrina, how do you start a story? What's your drafting process roughly?
This is this aspect of writing for everybody who is writing is so unique to the writer and to the individual that I think you and I are going to have some overlap. I think you'll be
Yeah.
surprised. I start with the end. I know
Uh-huh.
where the story is going, and then after that, I follow the characters. And I think that many people have called this pantsing.
Mm.
Some people call it discovery writing.
The
Um,
fancy term.
yeah. What was the other way I've heard it? I forget. This is where the crazy o'clock in the morning comes in. Uh, but I don't really have a blueprint. I find if I create an outline, I don't usually write the story. I have to hire a ghostwriter, or I sell the outline to somebody who wants the outline. But I can't really write the story that way. So that's my essential process. I start with the end. I know the destination. It's like going on a road trip. You know where you're going, but if you've never been there before, you don't know the roads to get there. That's kind of how I feel. How about you?
Well, a lot of your process is so relatable to me. I don't start at the end. I also consider myself a pantster, at least at heart. I usually start at the beginning. Like I start with like a seed of an idea. It's usually not a fully formed idea of what kind of story I want it to be, which I feel like is sort of what you're starting with when you're starting with the end. You're like, you know what your destination is. I'm not even sure um, what kind of journey it is, let alone the destination. Usually when I start, like ideally I start with like some little seed of an idea. Often it's been like some weird little thing from my childhood, some kind of odd thing that's like, carved out a corner of my brain, and that ends up helping me figure out like who some characters might be. Um, and so I'm usually a very character driven writer, I think. Like I start with characters and like this some little seed of an idea, and then I just kind of start writing it. I will say, I guess maybe it's funny that I'm the one who said like I would think that our paths wouldn't determine much of this, but in a way mine kind of has, um because I've been a pantster. The first couple books I wrote, I completely wrote this way that I'm saying, and I found that when I got into revisions of the book that got me an agent, when we got into revisions, uh, there was so much stuff to do structurally that I thought, you know what if I what if I try to do the outline thing? Um, and I discovered, much like you, that when I do the outline, it's hard for me to write the story. But since then, I've had some situations where it's been necessary for me to write an outline, and which I don't, and I don't think that I could write a story from an outline. I'm gonna be totally honest, without Adderall. Like, that was the thing that helped me, because I feel like my inability to write, the idea, like, my problem was when I started writing an outline, if I outlined the whole story, then as far as my brain was concerned, I already wrote it. It's done. Like, my ADHD was like, well, that's done now. It's not interesting anymore. We already did
Right.
that. And I think you can relate to this struggle. So getting my ADHD treated is what allowed me to be able to write from an outline. And I don't love it. It's not my favorite thing to do, but like it's been necessary for some things. So it that is a struggle. And the other thing, I suppose, that's been different about the way that I've started writing stories or started drafting since I got an agent and started doing traditional publishing is I start to think now, like I always used to just start with a seed and like just go to wherever. And now the way I kind of decide what I want to write is taking that seed before writing the story, taking that seed and figuring out the characters to the extent that I can write something that's basically a pitch to show my agent, like, here's the idea for the story, here's the pitch, here's what something that would be really similar to the pitch that you would send to try to get an agent, or a pitch that you would send with a book when it goes on sub. So lately I've started a bunch of projects, like basically from a pitch, and that works for me. Like starting a project from a pitch, because then, you have like kind of a basic idea, you have kind of a hook for it. And then you're starting from there, but everything else is like coming out in the sort of organic pantser way. Like even when I'm writing from an outline, I find most of my best ideas come as I'm writing, and I'll end up changing things a lot based on like ideas I get as I'm going, and I like kind of discover why I'm writing it as I'm writing it. Like, oh wait, this is what the story's really about. And then a little while later I'll be like, no, wait, this is what the story's really about. And I tend to have those moments all through the whole draft.
Yeah, I struggle with things like people, what's the theme of your book? I don't know, I haven't finished it yet.
Right.
That's like, or why did you write this? I wrote it because the story was haunting me, and if I didn't get it written down, it was going to haunt me for the rest of my life. Why else do you write a story?
I think like right. Sometimes when I'm discovering the story and discovering like what the point of the story is for me, a lot of the times it does come down to there's a big why, there's a big thing that I want to say. But I don't know. I'm not always clear on what the thing is until I get a ways into it. There's a lot of, I would say, part of the way that I write and part of the way that I work is I'll have things that I do want to say, that I do want to convey through the story, and I'll usually put those into the supernatural elements rather than like sort of explicitly in the story. Like the book that's getting published in March, the story is, like fairly straightforward. Like the plot is fairly straightforward, and though like the main character is non-binary and the love interest is trans, and like there's a lot of and like that's just who they are in the story, and that's just like kind of accepted through the story. It's not a coming out story. It's not about their gender identity or their gender journeys or anything like that. But in the supernatural elements of the story, it's definitely about figuring out like how to live in a life, how to be a person in a world that's telling you that you don't exist, or a world that's telling you that you're a monster and you shouldn't exist. And that, at least, right now especially, is a
Mm-hmm.
very trans story. um and so it's like I'm talking about those things, but those things are metaphors in the story as opposed to being the main things, even though, like, absolutely the characters are trans.
Mm-hmm.
But so I kind of build those things. That's where I like find the places where, like, this is why I'm telling the story, this is how I'm telling it. And then
Mm-hmm.
the kids who, since I write for teenagers, the kids who just need to read stories about themselves where they're accepted and just part of the, like saving the world like anybody else, like any other teenager in a
Mm-hmm.
YA contemporary fantasy novel,
Absolutely.
and just seeing themselves exist and be accepted in the world without it being questioned, can have that. And then the kids who need to think about it more deeply and think about the struggles that they're going through, and that's there too, just a little deeper in.
I found
Um,
something similar when I wrote my first series. Um, I thought I was just right. Like I said, I write it because the characters were haunting me. They really do. They stick in your head and they don't go away, and they start to tell a story. And
yeah.
then you just kind of follow the scenes one image at a time. I think very visually. Even when we talk
Mm-hmm.
and you say something, my brain comes up with an image for it as people are talking to me. I've only met a handful of other people who think as visually as I do sometimes. Um, and so all of my stories are just these little snippets of what I've seen. And I'm just following one character to the next sequence and to the next sequence and that sort of thing. And I don't sit back and think of the whole thread. And when I was done with the first story, I went back and said, "Oh, this isn't about these two characters, although these three characters really, although these three characters are the core pivotal people in the story that I thought I was following and I thought was the story. Turns out, the story was about more about the fact that they were a group of people that had been different and had
Mm-hmm.
dealt with the differences. And they were determined they were going to create a society that was going to make everything not that.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of 5 books, 4 books they do, and by the beginning of the 5th book, I have set up for the legacy of their chaos.
so so how much do you plan your characters ahead of time? Like, how do you, like, do you, because you said you start at the end
Uh-huh.
and then you start writing and you let the characters take you. So how do your characters come to be? Do you know who most of them are going to be before you start? Do you like have one or two and then others just show up? Like, how do you do that?
I start writing. Whoever shows up on the page is my character.
So you don't plan them at all.
I my first series I didn't I kind of played with them with similar characters in a different setting. I role played. A lot of writers I know have done that.
Uh-huh.
I role played versions of the three main characters in the book at different times. Theoretically, one of them is not mine, and I fully expect a different uh, a story to come out with at least two of the three main characters that'll have the same names and very different, but they're not the other person isn't done with that story yet. We're working on it. Um, Mostly, I'm sitting in the background going, "Where's the next piece?" Anyway.
So here's actually a place where maybe I'm less panster than you in terms of characters, just like
Mhm.
specifically, because I usually, before I start writing, will have planned a few of the characters at least. Like I'll have a few key characters in mind, um, and I'll have them fleshed out, like mostly on a surface level. Like I'll have a name, I'll have like some sense of their identity, their relationship to the main character. A lot of the rest, like their voice and personality and stuff like that, that happens as I write. But I'll kind of have I usually have this little list of like the characters like that I consider the key characters that are going to start off the book, with a name and who they are to the main character. You can see this like any page of notes that you ever go to from like where MJ started this book or this book will have like this little list right at the beginning of it. And I hate naming. Like I hate coming up with names, and sometimes they'll only have a first name, and I'll have a placeholder for a surname if I need it, or like I get to a certain part of the story and I'm like, oh crap, they have to have a last name. They have to have a last name. What am I gonna do? And I try to think of one, but I usually at least start with some. I start with a few. Like these are the people who are going to inhabit this story, whatever it's gonna be. So maybe I'm more of a like I think of myself as a planster, maybe, or a panster. Maybe I'm more of a planster, as they say, because I do make like a few plans like that, and have some kind of idea of who's going to occupy my story before I start writing it down.
It's kind of funny. As we're talking, I'm realizing that my second longer series, I knew the name of the main character because I was literally borrowing it as a tribute to one of my sisters. And I realized that none of my serials or shorts did I know the name of the character before I started, but all of my longer series I did. At least one character.
Interesting.
None of my serials, like I didn't know what they were or who they were. I knew roughly where I wanted them to be, like the setting, and I guess that's the extent of what I knew. I knew the world building elements, I guess, ish, kind of.
So,
but, yeah.
No, continue. I had a follow-up question, but I don't think you were done.
I was just, I don't know what the difference is with my serials versus my shorts versus my longer stuff. I don't know why. Like,
I feel like
okay,
that's something that could be interesting for you to explore for yourself.
Yeah, I think it would be. I'll be glad to talk about it when I figure it out.
Yeah.
Because, like, when I sat down and wrote Protectors, which is the next long series, which is currently, if anybody goes looking for it, you probably won't find it. I had pulled it down to do some updates and rewrites because it was intended to be an ongoing serial, and then I have this artist who's going to help me turn it into a light novel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but I'm thinking I'm probably going to re-release this in one version and then get all 5 of the edited installments back out, and then go back over and do the light novel, and then if we so choose to extend that further into an actual graphic novel, that will go much further, much further. That will go from like 5 to like 20.
I know I said I had a follow-up question, but now I have a totally different follow-up question. I mean, one of the things that I thought we should talk about, but like I feel like now is the time, all of a sudden, based on you saying, like, talking about having taken a thing, like removed it so that you could do some work on it. I was wondering if you've had any shifts in how you think about writing, how you go about writing, how you go about thinking about like the structure of your thing as you write it, since as you've gone, like has your process or the way that you approach your books from a craft standpoint, has that changed over the years as you became more professional and like learned more about what you like, the author that you want to be? and like the stories that you want to put out?
In a sense, and I think it's a kind of a development for all of us. The first, I think, part of our writing journey, I think for every writer, is to find your voice.
Mm.
And then once you've got your voice, is how do you want your voice to look when it's on the paper? And when you've worked with your editor or you've worked with a number of editors, you learn structure better, you learn how it's put together better, you learn when you're missing points, you learn when your points, when you go back over what needs to be filled in or not filled in. And so in that sense, yeah, I've learned how to further improve the way my revisions look, and they look a lot closer to polished by the time I release them. Yeah, never
Yeah.
released until you've given it to a third set of eyes that knows what they're looking at. Anybody who tells you otherwise is adorable
Yeah.
and doesn't know.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh,
Um,
but yeah,
yeah.
no, before it goes to the editor, like in theory, I want my editor to do 1 to 2 passes and call it a day, as
Mm.
opposed to when I first started, I had 3 different editors in the first book. I had um it was a mess is what it broke down to. It was a mess. So
I yeah.
the creative process in and of itself, yes, it's changed. Yes, it's gotten better because my writing is tighter, it's less meandering, it's more I know what this scene has to accomplish when I'm sitting down and starting to write. Although oddly enough, I don't actively think about that when I'm writing. I just
Mhm.
write, and it tends to get to the next spot. Uh, so yeah, it does change with time. But it changes for everybody when you get used to practicing and get used to doing what you're doing, even without
Well,
all the other stuff. You just do. You get Anybody who says that writing is just this innate talent is does not understand the work you put
oh
in.
my goodness, no. I mean, yes, there like talent. I don't know. I have a whole big thing about talent, but like talent is a thing. Talent is
Well,
real. It's a thing that exists.
absolutely.
But but I would say somewhere between 80 and 90% of what we attribute to talent, like to talent in in any creative field, especially, is
Mhm,
actually just learned skill.
mhm,
Like like talent is real and it's there, but I think you can get further on just skill with less talent than you can with like a crap ton of talent and no skill at all.
mhm.
Um so yeah. Well, and I'm I I think both of us are people without any formal education as authors, like as writers,
Mm.
um that we're self-taught as
Mhm.
writers. Am I correct in thinking that that describes
Yes.
you as well as me? Yeah. I have no formal education in it at all. I learned it all on the job. And so similar to you, like certainly it was working with, for me, the where the way that I thought about writing changed a lot. Because I had a wonderful critique partner, and I had, you know, great beta readers for my books before, for the things that I wrote, and even like, you know, before I was writing books, when I was writing fan fiction and things like that, I had great beta readers. Um, and got really useful feedback from beta readers and my critique partner, who um, is amazing and is an amazing writer as well. Um, but working with, I think the thing that really changed the way that I approach thinking about my writing was going through revisions with my agent for the first time, where uh, the types of things that we had to look at, like I find myself thinking a lot more about structure in general, about the pacing of a book, um, especially if I'm doing something where I have to work from an outline, which again, like isn't necessarily my favorite thing to do, but I feel is a thing I'm going to have to learn how to do going forward. Um, I've had to outline like the second book that on the deal I got, like
Mhm.
and if I ever want to continue writing things that aren't just a standalone, I'm going to have to do that. If I ever want to sell a book on proposal, they're going to want an outline before they
Mhm.
offer up money for it, like that's understandable.
Mhm.
I think that they need to know what they're getting before they buy it. That's very fair.
Mhm.
So it's a thing that I have to learn how to do more. And definitely I've found myself when I'm looking at those things, I'm thinking about stuff like where where does everything happen? What do I have to deal with pacing here? Is this part going to be too slow? Is this part going to rush too much to the end?
Mhm.
Um, and it's partly for my own good
Mhm.
because it saves me time in developmental edits if I think about that stuff in advance more. If when I'm going into my own revisions, that's really a focus for me. Maybe it's not as much of a focus when I'm actually doing the writing, but when I'm doing my own revisions before I would send it to my agent or to my editor,
Mhm.
if I'm thinking about those things, it saves me from having to wait for them to tell me about those things.
Mhm.
Um, and then the other thing that's changed for me a little bit, I guess, is this is something that came up like in working through the concepts for the second book that I'm on contract for now, is thinking about tone, like thinking about because I'm not like a marketing person, but it makes sense to me the concept that if you want books in a series to have the same tone,
Mhm.
so that the reader knows what they're getting when they go in for a second one, and so they all match in like like it feels like a coherent, cohesive universe, and so thinking about marketing is something that I never did before I sold a book.
Mhm.
And because changes were made really early on, like the title of the book and things that when I really looked at it, I was like, oh, this is so smart. This title matches the tone of the book so much better than the one that I had. And I can see now how big of an influence that might be in how well the book does, how well it finds the readers who actually want it,
Mhm.
because the title will
Mhm.
help convey what the book's going to be, so people who get it are more likely to be getting what they were looking for. That's like a thought process that I never even came close to before until I was working with a publisher where those things are obviously a priority for them. Is like
Mhm.
how are we gonna position this book? How are we gonna sell it? And so I'm kind of thinking about those things
Mhm.
for the first time in my whole life, and like I'm like learning it all on the job because I don't have a I don't have a degree. I didn't go to school for this at all. I mean, I do have a degree, but not for this.
Right. Yeah, I would argue in a lot of ways I do consider myself a marketer. I
Well, obviously, you have to be.
You would think, but I know a lot of indies that hate marketing. They hate the concept of marketing. It's part of why when I talk to people, one of the first things I tell them is that they need a newsletter. Because sending an
Mm-hmm.
email to a friend is a whole lot easier than sending a whole lot of marketing material and scheduling social media posts and making video that you have to edit and adjusting this and changing that. It's um it's a process, but it's absolutely. I find when I'm writing, I don't think enough about marketing while I'm writing.
I was just going to ask if you thought about it while you were writing.
I think about it afterwards, and I think it applies, that applies for me to just about everything I write.
Hmm.
My, for me, none of us, regardless of how we're going to choose to publish, are going to stick with this when it stops being fun. That's just the truth. When the writing turns into a job instead of that thing you get up and look forward to doing, why would you get up and do it? And yes, most of us are understand the concepts of I still have to pay my bills and everything. And so what we'll do is go out and get a job or go out and do the things differently than what we've been doing it. And it just won't fuel the creativity the same way.
It's so funny because I maybe have a like a slightly different feeling about that. Not that like obviously the reason why obviously we do this because we love doing it. Um but since like most of my myriad of professions over the years have been creative in one way or another,
Mhm.
have been in the arts, like they've mostly been in the arts. Um if there's one thing I've learned, it's that no matter how much you love a thing, there are going to be days you get up in the morning and you don't want to do it, but you just do anyway because it's your job and it is your job. And what you like, so for me, from my perspective, what you want is you want to keep a balance where more of the days feel like the thing you're dying to do and that you're passionate about than feel like the day when you're like, "Ah, I don't really feel like doing this today, but I have to." Because I feel like that's just like a part of life is sometimes having to do things when you don't feel like doing them.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
so I think I like for me, it's like I hope I won't just, and maybe this is like the ADHD talking or like the awareness of my ADHD talking,
Mm,
but I don't want to quit when I am having like a period of time where it doesn't feel as fun as it used to because I
mm.
feel like most of the time like you can work through that period and it gets back to being fun again. Um and then there's certainly parts of it that are more fun than others, like there's absolutely parts of writing that I enjoy
Have,
more than other things, but like you have to do them all to
mhm.
have a book. And
Have
so
you
yeah.
ever
What were you saying?
experienced creative burnout?
Um, I don't know if I've had full on creative burnout. I've definitely experienced burnout, but for me, most of the times when that has happened, it's been burnout on other things, on other aspects of whatever the creative thing is. Like um when I was, so this isn't about writing specifically, except there was always a lot of writing involved. Like, for instance, when I was running a teen opera workshop, and the creative parts of it were what I loved. I loved putting together, I loved like rewriting an opera with my students. I loved um, working on it with them. I loved rehearsing it with them, staging it, like going through the really difficult but so rewarding, so incredibly rewarding project like process of getting that deep into a piece of art and like living it on that level. And I would, however, because I was running it mostly by myself, like there were people I hired, like musicians and other artists that I hired to like help me work with the kids and like help me put the
Mhm.
show together. But in terms of actually running the program, I was doing it all by myself. I got so burned out on trying to get funding, try like the constant battle for funding, the constant battle for getting a rehearsal space, getting a performance space every year, and like everything being down to the wire, getting certain technical roles filled that like we would have people and then they would drop out, and like there were aspects of the process that I got super burned out on, and it would make the parts that I loved feel harder.
Mhm.
And so like I would get burned out, but it wasn't the creative part that I was burned out on. And I think that with writing, I haven't gotten to that point because I haven't been doing it professionally as long, so I haven't had that like kind of pressure on me
Mhm.
as long with it. Um but I feel like when I start to feel incredibly stressed and feel burned out, it's because I am stressed out because I don't have enough time to get everything done. I'm stressed out. Like if I just had all the time that in the world and could work on things like in the way that they felt the most organic and like work on things like in those like amazing spurts of joy and productivity that come along instead of needing to push myself because there are deadlines or because there's, you know, this or that and like money needs to happen and this needs to
Mhm.
happen and um I would never get burned out on it. I think I get burned out from the other stuff.
That
And that's half of the reason why I decided to take the path that I did
yeah,
because I like I don't want to be in charge of the marketing. I don't want to be in charge of selling the book. I don't want to be in charge of that. Is that stuff stresses me out so much.
I can see that. I can understand why, especially when you're going through the learning process and learning what's involved. It's not like you wake up and you just know. And so it's a growing process for sure with all of that.
That
Um,
said, if I didn't have deadlines, I wouldn't get things done. Which is maybe another reason why I took this path. It's like I'm like, "Oh, if only I didn't have to worry about time. I could just enjoy writing all the time." Okay, yeah. But if I don't have deadlines, I don't get things done. So it's like it's that ADHD thing
mhm,
where like you require structure but also you hate structure,
mhm.
that
That's great.
like battling itself like just constantly in
Mhm.
my personality.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I can relate. I know the reason why I brought up burnout is because it's something that I find a lot of people don't know how to manage. And when you go through
Mm.
creative burnout, at least in my experience, it's much worse than any regular burnout. And I say that only because as a creative, being creative is my lifeline. That's my sanity. I don't know what I'm going through today, but if it's going to be stressful, let me sit and write.
Right.
And that might become a throwaway piece that I just put out or not put out. It might become something completely random that I just never use, but it purges whatever chaos is in my mind. And when you can't even do that, it's like somebody
Mhm.
took away your oxygen. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
But
So
I
what do you do? How do you manage it?
well, I didn't manage it the first time. I crashed, burnt. It was ugly. Oh, it got really ugly. Um, uh, when it happened the first time, honestly, we ended up homeless, which was
Oh,
not a place a single mama wants to be.
no, it is not.
Uh,
No, it is not.
but it was a hard lesson. And
Yeah.
since then, the way I manage it is first of all, I pay attention that it's coming. Like I pay attention to the burnt, the feeling of overwhelm that you go through before you are really burnt out.
Mhm.
And then I also shifted mindset. And I only mention this because I think this affects our writing in a lot of ways. When you are in a state of, I'm not enjoying this, I'm not loving this, it's reflected in what you write. And so
Mm.
when I was writing during those times, I found it a significant challenge to do a lot. what I actually did to try, because writing was how I was making my money, I had to still produce something.
Right,
So
right,
I bought, I had somebody who was selling the rights to essentially license already written books, and I rewrote them into my voice and universe. So it kind of gave me a starting place, and then I reworked that. And this, I don't know what genius put that idea into this author's mind, but I thank them every day because they got us out of homelessness, because I couldn't even write my own stuff. Like, I couldn't, it was still mine when it was done, don't get me wrong, but it was one of the first things I put into a pen name because it wasn't mine from the start. And their willingness to license, and they licensed this in bulk to a few people, and they were all short stories, but that was the way I got through that particular period. But before since then, the coping process has been, so I can, what I'm saying is I can rewrite because I'm not trying to do the creative process from the start when I'm
right,
like
right.
that. Um, but I have learned that rewriting can also apply to my own work. So if I've got something that I thought was a great idea, but I couldn't flesh it out at the time for whatever 101 other projects, that's a good time to go back to those and revisit them and refix them. But ideally, you don't hit the creative burnout in the first place. Ideally, you're paying attention, you're making adjustments, you're changing your mindset. That's part of why I treat marketing and all the business stuff mentally very separately, and part of why I have no problem with the marketing, because to me that's the job, that's the work, that's the hard part. Writing, editing, revising, making a pretty book, that's the fun part. I find that if we are not taking care of ourselves in our writing process and keeping the things that we find to be work separate from what we're doing in some way, for you, it was the path you chose. For me, it's the way I treat it. It's the separation that I make for myself. If I'm doing a lot of writing, yes, I do a little bit of marketing, but it's not my focus that day. It keeps them
Well,
separate.
and I think something that you said was something you said there, like pinged something in my brain for me, because like I would say, while I haven't experienced something with writing that I would describe as creative burnout, I definitely had I've had like days and periods of time where it just really felt so much work to get words down on the page. Now that's always like a lack of focus problem for me. Like I think it comes back to ADHD and just not being able to focus, or maybe sometimes it's because I've gotten to a place in a scene where I'm actually not sure what to do yet, and so my brain is the ADHD is trying to like back me off from it,
Mhm,
be like, you don't need to do this anymore, it's getting difficult, walk away, walk away, walk away. And I'm like, no, I would like to finish it.
mhm,
But certainly a strategy that I have for dealing with that is getting the words down in the painful way as much as I possibly can, finishing the freaking scene, even if it's terrible.
mhm,
Like, even if it's wooden and it doesn't feel good to me at all, and it's not something that I want, because drafting is so much harder for me than revisions are. It
mhm,
was kind of like you were saying that, like, one of the ways that you got through your creative burnout was like where getting yourself into a position where your job was like doing the revisions, not like doing the editing
mhm,
of it, and not having to do all the drafting, or not. So I do all the drafting in this really painful way, get terrible words down on the page that feel wooden and not like my voice and not good at all.
mhm,
But as long as they're there, as long as there's stuff on the page, I can go back and
mhm,
revise it. And, there's those moments. I don't know if you have the same experience, but for me, there are these, it's like a little switch where I feel, or like a place where something turns, like a little turning point in the process where I can feel what seems like sort of wooden prose or something that doesn't feel quite right to me, doesn't feel voicey. That when I like am like in revisions with it and I'm starting to add the stuff that really makes it into something, it's like I feel it like start to sparkle. Like I can feel that, oh, okay, this is good now. This is juicy now. Like
Mhm.
this is what I want now. Like that place where it switches off from being awkward to being really like the exact vibe and feel that you want. And that's such a great feeling. And more often than not, that happens for me in revisions rather than in my first like draft. It happens when I like go through to rewrite it all or like revise it all. And so yeah, I guess like that's kind of my strategy for coping with when the creative juices aren't flowing, which I've never really thought about as I don't think with me I don't think it has been creative burnout. I think it's just been ADHD flavored
Mhm.
writer's block, basically. um,
I find it funny that you will go through and write a whole scene. For me, when I get stuck like that, the way you're describing,
uh-huh.
I blow stuff up. Usually literally.
Like,
Like
wait, in the book or
yeah,
IRL?
in the book.
Okay. It was when you said literally, I was like, okay, not really though, right?
Not
No,
not
no,
in
in the book,
life,
yeah.
but I will literally put some kind of an explosion or some kind of major disaster. There will be a rock slide, there will be a hull breach, there will be weapons fire, there will be an unexpected sneaky assassin, there will be like, the list goes on that you just completely
Uh-huh.
not foreshadowed, although ironically, I find out that I probably have foreshadowed it without realizing it, but that's a whole 'nother story.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
That's amazing.
I I will literally I get to those scenes and I'm sitting there, I have no idea what to put on the page, I don't know what to do. I know I need to move forward. If and I don't always write in order, so there's that too. So if it's really I don't really have anything at all, but I have something for another scene, I will write what needs to go there kind of in brackets so I know what I'm looking at
I do
when
the
I
same
come back,
thing. Yeah.
and then I go on to the next scene. But if it's really something that has to be written now, I've done all the other things, I don't know what to put here, I blow it up. I will blow up a ship,
I
I
love
will
that strategy.
break something. There's an aftermath for everything. Now, if I create what there's an aftermath and a reaction to okay, Jasmine, sorry guys, my cat's being a cat. A grumpy cat this morning. She's very cute.
We're all slightly grumpy cats this morning, probably. Um,
I have too much fun talking to you.
I also do, and I know like we have to like keep this from getting too long because we don't want to we have to cut down on how much we send to our editor to
It's a
try
good thing
to
he
make a
likes us.
podcast length thing. What are you saying?
It's a good thing he likes us.
Yeah, yeah, it is a good thing to do. Um, but that's so interesting to me. I feel like I wanna take that. I'm gonna be thinking about that now. Blowing things up when I
Mhm.
mean, usually I'm right. I have to be a little careful about blowing things up too often because I am writing for teenagers, and we do. I feel like I have to be mindful of trying to not. What am I trying to say? I don't want to encourage them to blow things up unless it's in a metaphorical sense.
Oh, in my
But
protected series, the first explosion, if you will, was actually a bug bite.
I see, I see, I see.
That's my young adult series. At least the ones that's gonna be morphed into all the other things. That one's a
Uh-huh.
young adult series. Uh, I've got a lot going on in that world that is not out yet. but we'll talk about that in another podcast. Um, in my Protector series, I do keep that in mind. So it's not an explosion in that I blew up a part of the building. In that case, the character got a
it is a metaphorical explosion.
yes, she got a bug bite from a bug she's never encountered before, and had a very bad reaction to it.
Is is she into insects? If she's
No,
into insects, I need
no.
if she was into insects, I was like, oh, I gotta read this book. I have a character in a book that I hope you guys will see sometime who is into insects.
Now this Sarita character she is the oldest child. The way one of my readers put it is that she's the child of a how she put it, family immigrant family that's surviving, not thriving.
Catrina has written so many books that she has to sit there and think again about like, who's this character again? That's
Oh,
how many books
no,
she's written.
Sarita is a character that is very near and dear to my heart. She is a brilliant character. I absolutely love her. She's gone through so much. Her poor or the poor character has got a terrible author that it just absolutely tortures her. She comes out more resilient than ever. I love Sarita. Um,
So to kind of like, all right, so if we're thinking about wrapping things up here, are there what else is there anything else about the drafting process that you wanted to ask about or talk about? I'm in the middle of drafting two things right now, so it's like very much on my mind. Drafting, pain, drafting. Um,
how are you keeping them separate?
I'm working on them at completely separate times. So basically, I carve out like I'm working like right now. Well, I'll just be upfront. Right now, I'm working on finishing the short story that we're gonna be. Oh, my cat is standing in front of my model, by the way. So if it's frozen, that's why. It is frozen, and that is why. Hello, Embercat. Embercat has joined the podcast. Um, I basically stopped writing the other thing so that I could finish the short story, and then when I'm done with that, I will go back to the first thing. I do need to keep them separate. Like I despite the ADHD, I feel like my brain wants to live in one universe at a time. So I just kind of like immerse myself in one and then later immerse myself in the other one. But they're both the like deadlines are looming in my mind. Like I'm even though I'm concentrating on one, the other one is still like low level simmering in the back.
Mhm.
And every once in a while I'll get an idea for it, like for something that I want to like change or do and write it down, like jot it down so I don't forget when I get back to that book.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, that's kind of the strategy is I work on one at a time. Um, but and it's been like drafting is always kind of painful for me. I guess maybe that's the other reason why when we're talking about like, oh, do we work when we don't feel like it? Drafting is always hard for me. Like writing the story is always like is always kind of a struggle. Or wait, let me say, it's not like all struggle, but there's so much struggle to it. There's like frequent struggle. Oh, Ember is just, I'm really trying to like pet her away from the camera, but she just keeps wanting to go right back to the camera. I'm so sorry, guys. Um, but yeah, there's so much struggle to it that it's kind of always like a stressful experience. So that's why I'm like,
Mhm.
oh no, I push through this and then I get to do the really fun part of in the revisions, like really making it feel alive. And that feels so good that it's worth all the struggle that comes before that. It's worth the drafting struggle when I have like those moments. Um, but yeah, that was a long answer to your fairly simple question, but there we go.
I just find that part interesting because some of us I find do not work on different worlds very well. if you go on Twitch, there's a writer. His name is Kindar. He goes by the Tiger Writes on
Oh
Twitch.
yeah, I think I've
He
met the Tiger Rights. I think.
Yes, he will write sometimes 3 different projects at once, and he's got them on his schedule when he's writing them. I am still amazed that he does that and does it so well. And I I will write, for example, I'm working on the revamp of Protectors. I have 5 or 6 stories in Protectors. I am so sorry if you guys are hearing that train. I have like 5 or 6 stories in Protectors that are in that universe, but not necessarily connected. I have stories that are absolutely targeting the more adult market. I have like the Protectors stories themselves target are young adult. Uh, it's I've got some that are potentially ancient stories to the same universe. No, no one said I had to be sane about this, but it's all in the same universe.
I can see. I mean, I can see the even. I can see the as an the ADHD appeal of working on several projects at once and just like scheduling them out. And I think where my own brain doesn't work with that as well is like it's hard enough to get focused on one thing, let alone like trying to switch focus um, on a schedule from one thing to another thing to another thing. So I think like I would find that really difficult, but I can also I can see the appeal of like if you're working on 3 things at once and you're never working on anything on any one thing for too long at a time, you'll surely never get sick of it. You're not going to burn out on that piece, you're not going
Mhm.
to. So I can definitely see the appeal.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so I
just
think, yeah.
I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
always
Sorry.
amazed by that ability to me. If they weren't
Yeah,
in the
I'm
same
amazed
universe
too.
for me, I slow down so hard. Something doesn't get finished.
So to wrap this up, like I would like to ask the viewers, the listeners, you guys, tell us in comments about your own drafting processes. I'm always
Mhm.
really fascinated by how different people write. Um,
And how do you
and
deal with those stuck spots? How do you deal with
yeah,
parts I blow up and MJ just writes through and creates a structure for? How do you guys do that? I am quite
yeah,
curious.
definitely let us know. And I look forward to having more conversations like this going forward. And we'll probably be back next time with another slightly more business focused episode. But at the same time, like notice how the business just like it creeps in no matter what.
Mm.
Like this was a craft talk, and yet it really is the way that we deal with our craft is absolutely influenced by the way that we conduct our business.
Mhm. And
So I guess it's just you can't totally separate them.
looking forward to hearing what all of you guys think about that. If you're on one of the podcasting locations, just leave it as a comment, a review, and on YouTube, the comment section down below. And thank you for hanging out with us today.
And thank you, Katrina, for talking to me
It's been a
so
pleasure.
early in the morning.
I'm amazed how well this works, so we'll have to keep this in mind if we need to.
Yep.
All
All
right.
right.